This little issue here is not going to end well.
America has allowed gangs to enter our country.
The migrants that are coming, they're taking over every block right now.
The city of Chicago is going to go up in smoke. It's going to go up in flames.
Okay, before we talk about Chicago and Venezuelan gangs and Chicago gangs, I want to address something really quick. Yesterday, this video was made. It was done, it was posted, and then I got a very odd copyright claim that came in roughly 2 hours before the video was released. Now, the video did get released, all for about 3 seconds, and I pulled the video down. I went to my community tab and posted to that there. I'm going to kind of reopen the community tab and use it a little bit more often. I understand that YouTube has this tendency of not letting your subscribers know your videos exist. So make sure you guys, once again, come on the notifications. So that way you guys are notified when videos come out. Trust me, after a while, it will begin to add up and you guys will start getting notifications. But still, though, at the same time, it's quite embarrassing to have to post a video and then turn right back around and delete it, especially when the copyright scheme of this platform decided not to lay a copyright claim in until roughly 2 hours before the video was released. So I took the video down. I looked at the video one more time and thought about it, and I was like, you know what? It would probably be a good idea if I just simply redid it, because there was another caveat that was released last night that, of course, I'll be talking about on Friday. So go ahead and consider this right to be a bit of a two-parter. Now, with that right there out of the way, let us go ahead and get into it. So a while back, not too far back, we had this incident in Aurora, Colorado. This incident, by the way, is an incident that I did a video on where people were talking about armed gangs being inside abandoned buildings, buildings that the state of Colorado was going to be taking and redoing to create migrant shelters. However, those migrant gangs, those Venezuelan gangs, Trinidad and Aragua, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, they were armed. They were also extorting people. They were also, at the same time, planning on a move to Chicago, and of course, they've gotten there. And of course, I did a follow-up video to that, talking about the situation in Chicago and how it is that Chicago gangs are looking forward to the Venezuelan gangs showing up. Now, guys, I don't think I need to go full-blown into how I feel about that, even though I will be telling you guys what I think will happen. And of course, in the second video, I'll explain why this is being allowed to occur. But this situation, to me, I think is probably going to get pretty nasty.
Are angry over the influx of migrants and criminals in their city. They say money that should be going to the African-American community on the South Side is instead going to what they call non-citizens, and warn that turf wars between Chicago's gangs and groups like Venezuela's Tren de Aragua could see Chicago, quote, go up in flames. Photographer Matt McDermott and I traveled to Chicago's South Side to see what was happening for ourselves after we heard about a police report last month that the Tren de Aragua gang had taken over an office building there. We spoke to a number of young, hardcore gang members, as well as gang elders who have retired from the life, and just regular citizens who are very much part of the community. And they're all furious at the estimated
Now, before we go off on this, why in the world are the gangs now starting to get upset? Well, they see armed gangs coming. They hear about this, and they find out that these armed gangs are also at the same time taking over certain pieces of property, certain bits of territory in the south side of Chicago. Now, the reason why I got a copyright claim, and I promise I'll be very, very brief, was it came from the New York Post. Something to do with the music, of course, something in the background. The New York Post has never copyright claimed me at all. However, the full 7-minute video will be in the description box. I'm only pulling bits and pieces from that 7-minute video. So if you want to see the full 7-minute video, I highly advise you guys do so. Now, here's the thing about the situation in Chicago. We've done a lot of videos covering this migrant situation, this migrant crisis. We've done a lot of videos talking about how it is that migrants are getting certain benefits that the people of the city of Chicago, the people who are more in the lower class, the poor people of Chicago, mostly people of color, black people and Hispanics that are already there, they're not getting the benefits that they think they should be getting. Even though I've obviously been very, very stern on the topic of benefits, you should have a job in order to get those benefits, because I do believe in a work requirement of welfare. However, the migrants are getting doled out all kinds of cash. They're getting doled out all kinds of benefits, debit cards, you guys name it. And they're taking the money, and they're obviously using the money, not on the U.S. economy, but they're sending a lot of this money back to their native Venezuela. While at the same time, when they do use the money in our economy, they do it in a way that, let's just say, that does not exactly strike the people of the city of Chicago, especially the let's just say those of the gang variety, it doesn't exactly strike any favor with them.
They here, they get quick housing, quick funding, food. They get cars with no license. They can't even read English and stuff like that. So they get all these perks when they get here, and we still here starving. So what we gonna do about it? Are y'all gonna listen to our cries?
Was a Blackstone gang member for years. He drove us around the South Side and showed us areas where he said Trendo, Awagwa, and other criminal gangs are setting up. I spoke to Tyrone Muhammad of Ex-Cons for Trump, who runs a street patrol and violence prevention program. He's gone straight since his days as an enforcer for the Gangster Disciples. And he said the situation is very tense on the South Side as turf battles between the local gangs and Venezuelan migrants heat up.
It is impossible to release gang members and criminals into our country through the borders and broken walls and then infiltrate them in our community that's already impoverished, that's already broken, that's already...
Now, that right there was only a small bit. We'll come back to the rest of this report here in a second. But this discussion, this topic comes up all the time in Chicago. And of course, a lot of people are believing that the city of Chicago, for the first time, is going to experience a massive shift to the right. Case in point, the other day, this right here occurred at a town hall.
Should hit a peak at a city council meeting as aldermen and residents keep clashing over how taxpayer money should be spent on migrants. The council's Immigration and Housing Joint Committee couldn't vote or even start the meeting because some members didn't show up. But people still got to speak during public comment, and Alderman Byron Lopez announced a November referendum where voters can decide if the city should tax millionaires 3% to help migrants.
We have 120,000 millionaires who live in the city of Chicago who can pay the fair share, and there are solutions so that we can do both. Care for new neighbors as well as the current neighbors.
Are y'all lying to us? Because, see, we know that the budget stated that you guys spent $400 million on the migrants who are illegal immigrants last year. The city is currently in a $235 million deficit, which means that you guys overspent the budget to pay for people who have not paid any taxes.
Now you have religious leaders in the city of Chicago that are black. They are now kind of sort of changing their tune when it comes to voting for the Democratic Party.
Adding migrants to the city of Chicago is complicating the city's crime issue. It's not the first time we've heard that complaint. Pastor Brooks appeared on Fox and Friends First earlier this morning. He says he constantly hears from neighbors about their concerns. Brooks says that he believes it's only a matter of time before things explode.
We're already dealing with major crime. We're already dealing with major educational issues. We're already dealing with a high murder rate. When you add individuals who are undocumented, who are coming from countries who have been let out of prison and entering into our city, it's only a matter of time before things explode. You're starting to see in different places around Chicago on the South Side confrontations and issues arising that are only going to get worse as time goes on.
I'm seeing where the migrants are trying to take over. They're flying up and down the streets. It's dangerous. They're toting guns around. They're threatening to take over different areas.
This right here is a case where I would say that you voted for the situation that you're in, which of course you did. But I'm at least glad to see that there are some people who have seen the era of voting Democrat and what the hell it has caused and what the hell it is continuing to cause. Maybe the city of New York will wake up. Maybe the city of Los Angeles will wake up. I don't think San Francisco ever will, but maybe these places will, in fact, wake up. And maybe Chicago will be the example. Who the hell knows? Yeah, so I'm pretty sure you guys saw that. You guys obviously heard that. You guys can obviously see that the people of the city of Chicago are obviously angry about this situation. But then we get the topic of the gangs. Now, the thing I want to say about the gang issue is this here. If these two factions are to go to war against one another, there are a lot of people out there who believe that the Chicago gangs are tough and that they're strong, and I'm sure that they are. But the belief is that these people will simply beat these Venezuelan gangs. I'm here to tell you guys right now that groups like Trinidad and Nicaragua have connections to cartels. Some of these members are actually formerly members of the military. Some of these gang members have also been in prison for things that, quite frankly, are unimaginable here in the States. And also, to go on top of that, you've also got another issue, which is their brand of street justice is not exactly the same as the brand of street justice you would get in modern-day Chicago. Chicago is called Chirac for a reason. However, Chirac was always a lot worse than what it is today. I know that right there sounds like a bit of an oxymoron. That right there may even sound a little bit crazy, but back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, gang members did things that, quite frankly, were much, much more on the horrible scale than what they do today. It's still horrible that's happening. I'm just simply saying it was a lot worse when the old school guys, like this guy right here, were in fact gang bangers.
Black gangs in Chicago get fed up with the illegalities and the criminal activity of these migrants or non-citizens. The city of Chicago is going to go up in smoke, it's going to go up in flame, and there's going to be nothing that the National Guard or our government can do about it when the bloodshed hit the streets, blacks against migrants.
Zach Massey did time in state prison with Tyrone Muhammad, although he's only 27. He's a leader on the streets and said he's disgusted by the money going to Venezuelan migrants at the expense, he says, of the African-American community.
And I finally actually talked to him on the translator app, and he told me all the things that he got going on, how they help him get a car, apartment, clothes, link. So it's just like, I just be looking at it like they ain't got no Social Security number. Where they come from? He probably
ex-cons for Trump. Now, a lot of these gang members are doing this little thing because they're trying to make their community a lot better, and they're actually trying to work on the community to make it safer, to make it, let's just say, much, much more prosperous. It's stuff that would have gone as far as let's just use an example. We'll use it as an example before I get too far ahead of myself with my language. Back in 2020, Trump unveiled the Platinum Plan. He was going to give a bunch of money to a lot of these, let's just say he was going to give money to people of color, black people in these cities to help clean up their neighborhoods and stuff. And of course, he kind of sort of somewhat did that with the First Step Act, which did have some problems. I'm not going to lie to you. I wasn't fully a fan of that particular piece of legislation, but still, though, it got signed. Remember, it was the Clinton administration, which, by the way, Joe Biden spearheaded the crime bill of 1994 that locked away an entire generation of black men that could have probably prospered in that particular economy, presidency, and possibly during the Bush presidency. And of course, these people would be better off today if they actually had legitimate male role models in their communities. Fathers in the home, all that type of stuff there we have to talk about. I don't really want to get too far into it, but as you guys can see, there are people out there who are, in fact, trying to make an impact on the current situation in the city of Chicago, especially with the troubled youth. And then you get this guy here that you guys saw wearing the Lakers stuff, which I'm showing you guys a photo of right now here in the B-roll footage, which makes me wonder about the gangs themselves that are coming, and the gangs, of course, that are already there. The former gangs, people who are leaving the lifestyle, are these people too bougie to take on people like, say, these Venezuelan gangs? The reason why I say bougie is because you guys could obviously see expensive clothes. You can obviously see the earpiece there, make you think that maybe these people have been a little bit too modernized for the current environment. A lot of these people, a lot of these Venezuelan gang members are tough. A lot of these come from very, very rough environments, rougher than those in Chicago, because when you come from a communist country like Venezuela or a socialistic nation in Venezuela, guess what? Table scraps are fewer and far between. Yes, I know about the homeless situation in Chicago. Yes, I know about these environments in the city of Chicago. They are environments that I would not wish upon anybody else. However, as bad as that environment is, it is actually a cakewalk compared to something like Venezuela. Basically, what I'm trying to say is this right here. These Venezuelan gangs that are coming up to Chicago, they are absolutely no joke. In the previous video that I did on this topic, I talked about the switches thing. And switches may sound great, but here's the thing, though. Just because you have something that may make your pistol be a little bit more automatic, mostly designed for a Glock, by the way, just because you may have that does not mean that you're going to be effective in a firefight. If anything, you're probably less effective in a firefight because the only thing you're doing is spraying and you're not actually hitting a target. Nothing's actually aimed. Where it is, a lot of these Venezuelan gangs, who, by the way, are also taking over territory and planting flags in said territory that they're taking in south side of Chicago, as you guys will see here.
Setting up shop and what he called showing the flag, which means brandishing their weapons in front of like a housing project.
The migrants that are coming, they're taking over every block right now in this area. Right now, you don't see them because they come out at night. They said they took this courtway over probably by last week. He said it was 100 Venezuelans standing out in the front right here.
Terry, is it an abandoned building? How do they just take it over?
They just, when you take over something, you just stand outside, and that's called showing the flag.
What kind of guns?
Semi-automatics, anything you name. you're gonna see it on the street. These boys got so many big guns that if they're 150 pounds, the gun is bigger than them. I swear.
But they know how to handle it, right? They know it. Tell me about the fact that they're...
Really quick, editing Claymore here. You're going to hear me flub this in a second, but basically what she's saying about playing the flag is them brandishing the weapon, saying we overtook your territory. It's obviously something these people would do to try to goad people who may not be armed at the time into doing something stupid. So this is going to be a bit of a theme coming up, not only in this video here, but also from the follow-up video. I just wanted to go ahead and edit this clip in so that way you guys know that a mistake is obviously coming. And as you guys will see here, actually understand how to use the firearm that they have.
Criminal element. These aren't just a bunch of Venezuelans that walked over the border and used to be gardeners back home, right?
Right. And they come from the gangland. They come from rougher gangs than us.
This situation could in fact get pretty daggone nasty. By the way, when they plant a flag like that, they are intentionally antagonizing you to attack. Now, why in the hell do you think they would be intentionally antagonizing you to attack? They would be intentionally antagonizing you to attack because they want you to attack so that way they can chop you up. That right there is the real truth about the situation. So, this right here is a video that, of course, could in fact get demonetized. So this right here is what I'm going to say to keep from going too much further on this issue, because if we start talking about the reasons why this is occurring, next thing you know, this video right here will be 45 minutes to an hour. And of course, I've already told you I was going to split this video up into two. The thing that you got to understand is that if you are in the city of Chicago and you have these Venezuelan migrant gangs up there, if you have these gangs in there operating throughout the city and they're looking for an actual fight, you've got to be smart about the situation. You've got to actually contact local law enforcement. You've got to be able to work out something with them. And by the way, a lot of former gang members are in fact talking to CPD about this. Now, I have no idea how helpful it's going to be, especially given the fact that the people of this region voted for the current administration, which is Brandon Johnson. These people at the same time also currently voted for defund the police, and the Chicago Police Department is stretched as thin as possible, as far across the city as possible. Guys are working double and triple shifts right now, not getting any sleep. But the fact of the matter is this right here. I think that these people in the south side of Chicago have finally seen the error of their way. I think they have finally seen the era of, let's just say, you get what it is that you vote for. And I think these people are finally starting to wake up. And they're starting to realize that they are, in fact, outnumbered. And their decisions is what the hell put them in this situation. So here is my advice to those who live in the south side of Chicago who are dealing with this issue. Be vigilant, highly vigilant. Stay away from these gangbangers. Stay away from these Venezuelan gangs. Don't try to get into any unnecessary fights or squabbles with them. Try to create a somewhat solid relationship with law enforcement there that's in the area, because after trying to defund them, you're going to find out that you quite frankly needed them, especially given the fact that the city of Chicago is one of the strictest cities in the country when it comes to gun control, which, by the way, that right there will be coming up in video number 2, the follow-up video. Also, the political stuff, too, because obviously there are some things to disagree with this whole notion about they're obviously being used for Democrat Party votes. And I'm here to tell you that you are correct. However, it takes a while for that right there to become processed. But still, though, at the same time, this right here is the more immediate. You have an election coming up in November. Go out there and go vote for Donald Trump. Maybe he gets in office, which I believe he will win. I believe he'll end up in office because I believe their attempts to take him out will ultimately fail. And, of course, he may start getting these people out of there, which, of course, you need to be on the administration to get these people out of there, because the longer these people stay, the longer and more it becomes a problem, especially given the fact that they are already sucking up enough of the taxpayers' money at this moment in time in the city of Chicago. I want to say it was roughly $500 million has been spent on these migrants already, and it looks like another $500 million is about to be spent in the next year because Mayor Brandon Johnson is so weak. And so I'll put it this way here. Rahm Emanuel, the mayor of Chicago, was weak. The one after him, Lori Lightfoot, she was weak with an evil purpose. Brandon Johnson, on the other hand, is weak, and he's a much more of a true believer type. Still, though, at the same time, though, this right here is what happens when you have weak leadership. But I think the people of the city of Chicago have actually seen the era of voting Democrat, and I think you're about to see a massive shift. You guys tell me what you think in the comment section. Don't worry, those other 2 videos will be out tomorrow. I'm actually going to go ahead and bump up the one on Janet Jackson being defiant to Friday to go along with part 2 or the follow-up to this video here. And on Saturday, I'm going to come back with the Candace Jink, whatchamacallit, and then on Sunday, we'll do the other Pierce video with Dave Smith and Seth Dillon. So make sure you guys stick around for all those videos there. Please Please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comments, and I'll see you guys later.